So we are reading Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. This is day 1.
Who moved my cheese? An amazing way to deal with change in your work and in your life. Who moved my cheese is a simple parable that reveals profound truths about change. It is an amusing and enlightening story of 4 characters who live in a maze and look for cheese to nourish them and make them happy. 2 mice named Sniff and Scurry, and 2 are little people, beings the size of mice who look and act a lot like people. Their names are Hem and Haw. Cheese is a metaphor for what you want to have in life, whether it's a good job, a loving relationship, money, a possession, good health, or spiritual peace of mind. And the maze is where you look for what you want, the organization you work in, or the family or community you live in. In the story, the characters are faced with unexpected change. Eventually, one of them deals with it successfully and writes what he has learned from his experience on the maze walls.
So, one second. So basically, what is he saying here? There are going to be 4 characters in this story, and each of them is acting in a particular way, right? So we need to understand which is the character that we are acting like. Basically, that's the game that we are going to be playing with this book.
When you come to see the handwriting on the wall, you can discover for yourself how to deal with change so that you can enjoy less stress and more success, however you define it, in your work and in your life. Written for all ages, this story takes less than an hour to read, but its unique insights can last for a lifetime. Parts of all of us, the simple and the complex. The 4 imaginary characters depicted in this story, the mice, Sniff and Scurry, and the little people, Hem and Haw, are intended to represent the simple and the complex parts of ourselves, regardless of our age, gender, race, or nationality. Sometimes we may act like Sniff, who sniffs out challenge early, or Scurry, who scurries into action, or Hem, who denies and resists change as he fears it will lead to something worse, or Haw, who learns to adapt in time when he sees changing can lead to something better. Whatever parts of us we choose to use, we all share something in common, a need to find our way in the maze and succeed in changing times. A gathering, Chicago. One sunny Sunday in Chicago, several former classmates who were good friends in school gathered for lunch, having attended their high school reunion the night before. They wanted to hear more about what was happening in each other's lives. After a good deal of kidding and a good meal, they settled into an interesting conversation. Angela, who had been one of the most popular people in the class, said, "Life sure turned out differently than I thought it would when we were in school. A lot has changed." "It certainly has," Nathan echoed. They knew he had gone into his family's business, which had operated pretty much the same and had been a part of the local community for as long as they could remember. So they were surprised when he seemed concerned. He asked, "But have you noticed how we don't want to change when things change?" Carlos said, "I guess we resist changing because we are afraid of change."
So, so this is true for all of us, right? We don't like the unknown. We get into a habit, we get into a rut, and we really don't like change. Most people do not like change, right? And we get stuck with the way that we are doing things.
"Carlos, you were captain of the football team," Jessica said. "I never thought I'd hear you say anything about being afraid." They all laughed as they realized that although they had gone off in different directions, from working at home to managing companies, they were experiencing similar feelings. Everyone was trying to cope with the unexpected changes that were happening to them in recent years, and most admitted that they did not know a good way to handle them. Then Michael said, "I used to be afraid of change. When a big change came along in our business, we didn't know what to do. So we didn't adjust and we almost lost it." "That is," he continued, "until I heard a funny little story that changed everything." "How so?" Nathan asked. "Well, the story changed the way I looked at change, from losing something to gaining something, and it showed me how to do it. After that, things quickly improved at work and in my life." At first, I was annoyed with the obvious simplicity of the story because it sounded like something we might have been told in school. Then I realized I was really annoyed with myself for not seeing the obvious and doing what works when things change. When I realized the four characters in the story represented the various parts of myself, I decided who I wanted to act like and I changed. Later, I passed the story on to some people in our company and they passed it on to others. And soon our business did much better because most of us adapted to change better. And like me, many people said it helped them in their personal lives. However, there were a few people who said that they got nothing out of it. They either knew the lessons and were already living them, or more commonly, they thought they already knew everything and didn't want to learn. They couldn't see why so many others were benefiting from it. When one of our senior executives who was having difficulty adapting said the story was a waste of time, other people kidded him, saying they knew which character he was in the story, meaning the one who learned nothing new and did not change. "What's the story?" Angela asked. "It's called Who Moved My Cheese?" The group laughed. "I think I like it already," Carlos said. "Would you tell us the story? Maybe we can get something from it." "Sure," Michael replied. "I'd be happy to. It doesn't take long." And so he began.
So basically, what is the story about? It's about adaptation. How do we adapt to change? And if we do not adapt to change, then we create problems in our lives.
Who moved my cheese? The story. Uncle, once, long ago in a land far away. Oh, it's once, sorry. Once, long ago in a land far away, there lived four little characters who ran through a maze looking for cheese to nourish them and keep them happy. Two were mice named Sniff and Scurry, and two were little people, beings who were as small as mice, but who looked and acted a lot like people today. Their names were Hem and Haw. Due to their small size, it would be easy not to notice what the four of them were doing. But if you looked closely enough, you could discover the most amazing things. Every day, the mice and the little people spent time in the maze looking for their own special cheese. The mice, Sniff and Scurry, possessing simple brains and good instincts, searched for the hard nibbling cheese they liked, as mice often do. The two little people, Hem and Haw, used their complex brains, filled with many beliefs and emotions, to search for a very different kind of cheese with a capital C, which they believed would make them feel happy and successful.
So, so when you look at this, they are looking at making them happy and successful, right? So the cheese is also pertaining to material desires, right? What are you acquiring? They want to acquire things. And we all feel that by acquiring material things, we will become happy, right? So that's where these two are also operating from. That they felt that if they find the cheese, with the capital C, it's going to make them happy.
As different as the mice and little people were, they shared something in common. Every morning, they each put on their jogging suits and running shoes, left their little homes, and raced out into the maze looking for their favorite cheese. The maze was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, some containing delicious cheese, but there were also dark corners and blind alleys leading nowhere. It was an easy place for anyone to get lost.
So if you look at us also, right, we are all running all the time, attempting to find that cheese which will make us happy. Now, most of the time, we do not even realize why we are running. So we are constantly running in our life. And as Nagarji says, we are running like chicken without the head. So in school, we used to see, the chicken used to get cut, the body used to run around. It was a really distinct sight. But we are all running like that. We seriously don't know why we are running, but we are constantly running.
However, for those who found their way, the maze held secrets that let them enjoy a better life. The mice, Sniff and Scurry, used the simple trial and error method of finding cheese. They ran down one corridor, and if it proved empty, they turned and ran down another. They remembered the corridors that held no cheese and quickly went into new areas. Sniff would smell out the general direction of the cheese using his great nose, and Scurry would race ahead. They got lost, as you might expect, went off in the wrong direction, and often bumped into walls.
So, so these are the two characters, right? So now you have to equate it with people who are running in their life. So this one guy, Sniff, he was attempting to test the field. He was attempting to test the energy, feel where what he sensed was right or which direction to go to, and then he used to move. So he was slowing down, taking a pause, and then moving. The other mouse, Scurry, without thinking, the guy was just running, right? Now, both of them were just using simplistic methods. They were not taking advice, they were not getting information, they were just working on their instincts. So, this is the way that two characters are working. So, you can start equating yourself that in which situation are you actually working like Sniff, and in which situation are you working like Scurry.
But after a while, they found their way. Like the mice, the two little people, Hem and Haw, also used their ability to think and learn from their past experiences. However, They relied on their complex brains to develop more sophisticated methods of finding cheese. Sometimes they did well, but at other times, their powerful human beliefs and emotions took over and clouded the way they looked at things. It made
So again, so what happened? Now they are operating like humans, right? So instead of using the intellect, the belief systems and the emotions start to come in your way. So we are constantly coming in our own way of finding success because we create problems for ourselves.
Sometimes they did well, but at other times their powerful human beliefs and emotions took over and clouded the way they looked at things. It made life in the maze more complicated and challenging. Nonetheless, Sniff, Scurry, Hem, and Ho all discovered in their own way what they were looking for. They each found their own kind of cheese one day at the end of one of the corridors in Cheese Station C. After that, the mice and the little people dressed in their running gear and headed over to Cheese Station C. It wasn't long before they each established their own routine. Sniff and Scurry continued to wake early every day and race through the maze, always following the same route. When they arrived at their destination, the mice took off their running shoes, tied them together, and hung them around their necks so they could get to them quickly whenever they needed them. They they enjoyed the cheese.
Okay. So now what is happening? They are getting into a routine. They are getting into a rut. They are not doing anything new and they are sticking to that routine. Now, when you start sticking to a routine which is not effective and efficient for you, you start becoming lazy, right? You start just taking things for granted. And this is what happens over here.
In the beginning, Hem and Ho also raced towards Cheese Station C every morning to enjoy the tasty new morsels that awaited them. But after a while, a different routine set in for the little people. Hem and Ho awoke each day a little later, dressed a little slower, and walked to Cheese Station C. After all, they knew where the cheese was now and how to get there. They had no idea where the cheese came from or who put it there. They just assumed it would be there.
So again, taking things for totally granted, not even analyzing as to where it is coming from, how is it coming, how long will it last, whether it will last or not. So literally no planning, right? They just took it for granted that it will always be there.
As soon as Hem and Ho arrived at Cheese Station C each morning, they settled in and made themselves at home. They hung up their jogging suits, put away their running shoes, and put on their slippers. They were becoming very comfortable now that they had found the cheese. This is great, Hem said. There's enough cheese here to last us forever. The little people felt happy and successful and thought they were now secure.
So now with the small success, they have found contentment that I am content, this will last forever. Now I don't need to do anything more in my life. And this is what happens to a lot of people. They get stuck in that rut and then they stop doing anything new. They stop exploring. And when that happens, things start to slowly degenerate and degrade.
It wasn't long before Hem and Haw regarded the cheese they found at Cheese Station C as their cheese. It was such a large store of cheese that they eventually moved their homes to be closer to it and built a social life around it.
So this is something we read in the shift. I have it written here. So they started feeling entitled to the cheese, right? They did not need to work for it anymore. So they felt that it was their Janam Siddh Adhikar to have that cheese, and the cheese would always be there for them. So they were operating from entitlement, not from humility.
To make themselves feel more at home, Hem and Haw decorated the walls with sayings and even drew pictures of cheese around them, which made them smile. One read, "Having cheese makes you happy."
So now what is this? Cheese is representing material objects, right? So now what are they tuning into? That the material objects will give them happiness. Now this is what happens to all of us also. We are keeping on looking for material goods to give us happiness and satisfaction, which at the end never actually happens because of the propensity curve.
Sometimes Hem and Haw would take their friends by to see their pile of cheese at Cheese Station C and point to it with pride, saying, "Pretty nice cheese, hub." Sometimes they shared it with their friends and sometimes they didn't. "We deserve this cheese," Hem said. "We certainly had to work long and hard enough to find it." He picked up a nice fresh piece and ate it. Afterward, Hem fell asleep as he often did. Every night, the little people would waddle home full of cheese, and every morning they would confidently return for more. This went on for quite some time.
So what was happening here? They were becoming more and more lazy. Now, when we look at it from the Vedantic principle, they are becoming more and more tamasic, right? Because they are becoming lazy. When a person becomes lazy, you are operating from tamas. So this is what is going on in chapter 18 right now. That what are the characteristics? So they are becoming lazy and becoming tamasic.
After a while, Hem's and Haw's confidence grew into the arrogance of success. Soon they became so comfortable they didn't even notice what was happening. As time went on, Sniff and Scurry continued their routine. They arrived early each morning and sniffed and scratched and scurried around Cheese Station C, inspecting the area to see if there had been any changes from the day before. They would sit down to nibble on the cheese. One morning, they arrived at Cheese Station C and discovered there was no cheese. They weren't surprised, since Sniff and Scurry had noticed the supply of cheese had been getting smaller every day. They were prepared for the inevitable and knew instinctively what to do. They looked at each other, removed the running shoes they had tied together and hung conveniently around their necks, put them on their feet, and laced them up. The mice did not overanalyze things. To the mice, the problem and the answer were both simple. The situation at Cheese Station C had changed. So Sniff and Scurry decided to change. They both looked out into the maze. Then Sniff lifted his nose, sniffed, and nodded to Scurry, who took off running through the maze, while Sniff followed as fast as he could. They were quickly.
So because of their simplicity, they were able to adapt quickly. Okay, they were not stuck in the rut. They were able to change. They were able to adapt.
They were quickly off in search of new cheese. Later that same day, Hem and Haw arrived at Cheese Station C. They had not been paying attention to the small changes that had been taking place each day, so they took it for granted that cheese would be there. They were unprepared for what they found. What? No cheese? Hem yelled. He continued yelling, no cheese, as though if he shouted loud enough, someone would put it back. Who moved my cheese? He hollered. Finally, he put his hands on his hips, his face turned red, and he screamed at the top of his voice, It's not fair. Paw just shook his head in disbelief. He too had counted on finding cheese at Cheese Station C. He stood there for a long time, frozen with shock. He was just not ready for this. Hem was yelling something, but Ho didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to deal with what was facing him. So he just tuned everything out.
So what was happening? Haw went into shock, right? He went into the freeze response. He's not being able to respond right now. Okay. And the other guy is saying it's not fair. So he's saying that it is not fair. And without understanding that you need to keep adapting, you need to keep adapting to change, you need to start engaging the unknown. They wanted the known only and they did not engage the unknown. So they now were stuck with a place where there was no more cheese. So the material goods had disappeared. Now what?
The little people's behavior was not very attractive or productive, but it was understandable. Finding cheese wasn't easy, and it meant a great deal more to the little people than just having enough of it to eat every day.
So, so they had got complacent, right? They became lazy. They were not active. They were not attempting new things. So this is why it becomes very important for us to keep doing new things. Because if we are doing new things, then we are putting ourselves in a position to adapt. But if we are stuck in a rut and we become lazy, we don't want to do new things, then when the change happens, we will not have the capacity to adapt. And it becomes very, very difficult at that point in time. And then some people can actually lose it.
Finding cheese was the little people's way of getting what they thought they needed to be happy. Ideas of what cheese meant to them, depending on their taste. For some, finding cheese was having material things. For others, it was enjoying good health or developing a spiritual sense of well being. For her, cheese just meant feeling safe, having a loving family someday, and living in a cozy cottage on Cheddar Lane. To him, cheese was becoming a big cheese in charge of others and owning a big house atop Camembert Hill. Because cheese was important to them, the two little people spent a long time trying to decide what to do. All they could think of was to keep looking around cheeseless Station C to see if the cheese was really gone. While Sniff and Scurry had quickly moved on, Hem and Haw continued to hem and haw. They ranted and raved at the injustice of it all. Haw started to get depressed. What would happen if the cheese wasn't there tomorrow? He had made future plans based on this cheese. The little people couldn't believe it. How could this have happened? No one had warned them. It wasn't right. It was not the way things were supposed to be. Hem and Haw went home that night hungry and discouraged. But before they left, Haw wrote on the wall, The more important your cheese is to you, the more you want to hold on to it.
So again, when you look at it from the principle of the shift, he says that you have to shift from attachment to letting go. Whenever you are attached to something, it is bound to create problems for you. Okay. So in the Vedanta talks also, he's saying the same thing. Anything that you're attached to, at the end of the day, it is bound to give you dukh. The more detached you are, the more you let go, the better off you are, the more sukhi you will be.
The next day, Hem and Haw left their homes and returned to Cheese Station C again, where they still expected somehow to find their cheese. The situation hadn't changed. The cheese was no longer there. The little people didn't know what to do. Hem and Haw just stood there, immobilized like two statues. Haw shut his eyes as tight as he could and put his hands over his ears. He just wanted to block everything out. He didn't want to know the cheese supply had gradually been getting smaller. He believed it had been moved all of a sudden. Hem analyzed the situation over and over, and eventually his complicated brain, with its huge belief system, took hold. Why did they do this to me? He demanded. What's really going on here? Finally,
So,
Ho,
so just one. So over here, now what is happening, right? Now they are looking for someone to blame. That why did this happen? How did this happen? This could not have been happening to me, and someone else was responsible. So they are not taking responsibility for what happened to them.
finally, Ho opened his eyes, looked around, and said, by the way, where are Sniff and Scurry? Do you think they know something we don't? Hem scoffed. What would they know? Hem continued, they're just mice. They just respond to what happens. We are little people. We are smarter than mice. We should be able to figure this out. I know we are smarter, Ho said, but we don't seem to be acting smarter at the moment. Things are changing around here, Hem. Maybe we need to change and do things differently.
So you see, again, ego, arrogance will not get you anywhere. So the point is to become aware of what you are and where you are, and then act accordingly. So these guys have got a little stuck. At least him has got stuck.
Why should we change? Hem asked. We are little people. We are special. This sort of thing should not happen to us. Or if it does, we should at least get some benefits. Why should we get benefits? Ho asked. Because we are entitled, Hem claimed. Entitled to what? Ho wanted to know. We are entitled to our cheese. Why? Ho asked. Because we didn't cause this problem, Hem said. Somebody else did this and we should get something out of it.
So again, in entitlement, that this is due to me, right? Without working for something, without actually striving for something, you have got it. And because of that, you think that you are entitled. And unfortunately, because many of the youngsters today, they have been getting things without asking. They feel that they are entitled, and that going forward creates problems for them because the parents are giving them everything that they want, and they start getting this notion that if they think they need it or if they want it, they will get it, and it doesn't happen in the real world. So it lands up creating a lot of problems for them going forward.
Or suggested maybe we should simply stop analyzing the situation so much and go find some new cheese. Oh no, Hem argued. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. While Hem and Ho were still trying to decide what to do, Sniff and Scurry were already well on their way. They went further into the maze, up and down corridors, looking for cheese in every cheese station that they could find. They didn't think of anything else but finding new cheese.
So now what is happening? The mice are very clear with their laksh. They're very clear with their goal that they need to find new cheese, right? Whereas these two men-like creatures, they are not even decided as to what they need to do and what they want to do. So clarity of thought, having a laksh will always be beneficial because then you can strive towards that. But if you do not have a clear-cut laksh, then it's not going to ultimately work for you. And then adaptation to change becomes very, very important. If you don't adapt, you've had it.
They didn't find any for some time until they finally went into an area of the maze where they had never been before. Cheese Station N. They squealed with delight. They found what they had been looking for, a great supply of new cheese. They could hardly believe their eyes. It was the biggest store of cheese the mice had ever seen. In the meantime, Hem and Haw were still back in Cheese Station C, evaluating the situation. They were now suffering from the side effects of having no cheese. They were becoming frustrated and angry and were blaming each other for the situation they were in.
So when you don't take responsibility for what is happening to you, you will constantly look at justification and the blame game, right? Now, as soon as you start justifying something or you start blaming something else, please note that you're on the left side of the grid. And from there, no manifestation will take place. So you can see that both of these guys were stuck and nothing was happening. There was no manifestation taking place. They were stuck in the same situation, but otherwise those mice had already found a new hoard of cheese.
Now and then, Haw thought about his mice friends, Sniff and Scurry, and wondered if they had found any cheese yet. He believed they might be having a hard time, as running through the maze usually involved some uncertainty. But he also knew that it was likely to only last for a while. Sometimes Haw would imagine Sniff and Scurry finding new cheese and enjoying it. He thought about how good it would be for him to go on an adventure in the maze and to find fresh new cheese. He could almost taste it. The more clearly Haw saw the image of himself finding and enjoying the new cheese, the more he saw himself leaving Cheese Station C. Let's go, he exclaimed all of a sudden.
So now, the moment you start getting clarity, you start finding a way out. You find that, okay, I need to take action. If you don't take action and you get stuck in what you are, then automatically there is no movement, right? So he got inspired. He got inspired because of his imagination. And we always keep saying that imagination is a faculty of perception. If you can imagine it, it can manifest. So the fact that he was imagining the mice having new cheese sparked a thing in him, which he said that I need to now start to go and look for new cheese. And of course, he's going to take his friend with him. But what was the reaction of his friend?
No, Hem quickly responded. I like it here. It's comfortable. It's what I know. Besides, it's dangerous out there.
So now again, this is like getting stuck. The fear of the unknown, not wanting to take a slight amount of risk, not opening yourself up to adventure, not allowing anything new into your life, right? Once you get into that rut, then you have had it. You are going to go down. You're going into the downward spiral.
No, it isn't, Ho argued. We've run through many parts of the maze before, and we can do it again. I'm getting too old for that, Hem said, and I'm afraid I'm not interested in getting lost and making a fool of myself. Are you?
So now again, you are never too old to do anything. This is my clear-cut opinion. The point is you need to attempt to do it, right? You may not be 100% efficient in doing it, but attempting to do new things and getting out of your rut is extremely important. The moment you say, I'm too old for this, means you're cutting your own feet, right? You're putting yourself into the rut. It just doesn't make sense. So if life is providing you with a new opportunity, if we treat it as an opportunity, then we make progress. But if we keep saying, no, I can't, I won't, then we get stuck in a rut.
With that, Haw's fear of failing returned, and his hope of finding new cheese faded. So every day, the little people continued to do what they had done before. They went to Cheese Station C, found no cheese, and returned home, carrying their worries and frustrations with them.
So now company matters, right? What is the company that you're keeping? Now, although Ho had got a new idea and he was willing to go and explore, because of Hem's attitude, he got stuck. So we need to be very, very aware of what is the company that we keep, who is around us, whether they are encouraging us or they are holding us back, right? This is something that we all need to be aware of.
They tried to deny what was happening, but found it harder to get sleep, had less energy the next day, and were becoming irritable. Their homes were not the nurturing places they once were. The little people had difficulty sleeping and were having nightmares about not finding any cheese.
So again, stress, right? They're getting stressed out. And as soon as you get stressed out, you'll get angry, you'll get irritated, your sleep will get affected, your digestive system will get affected, you'll start falling ill, right? Energy less, totally depleted. So this is what happens to most people who get stuck. There's no movement. In fact, like water, right? If water stagnates, it starts to rot. So if you stagnate, you are also going to rot. So that's what started happening to these people.
But Hem and Haw still returned to Cheese Station C and waited there every day. Hem said, you know, if we just work harder, we'll find that nothing has really changed that much. The cheese is probably nearby. Maybe they just hid it behind the wall. The next day, Hem and Haw returned with tools. Hem held the chisel, while Haw banged on the hammer until they made a hole in the wall of Cheese Station C. They peered inside but found no cheese. They
So,
were disappointed.
so this is like, banging your head against the wall. If you do not get to understand the writing on the wall, you'll keep banging your head and nothing is going to come out of it. So becoming aware becomes very, very important.
They were disappointed but believed they could solve the problem. So they started earlier, stayed longer, and worked harder. But after a while, all they had was a large hole in the wall. Ho was beginning to realize the difference between activity and productivity.
So now what does this mean, right? Hard work hardly works. So this is very, very important. We have to work intelligently. We have to work with awareness. If we are doing something without awareness, then we are going to just be spending energy and not really being productive. So we need to be efficient and effective in what we are doing, but we need to be aware as to what we are doing.
Ho was beginning to realize the difference between activity and productivity. Maybe, Hem said, we should just sit here and see what happens. Sooner or later, they have to put the cheese back.
So now it's like, someone says that Bhagwan mere liye karega, right? So now Bhagwan ji will do when you make an effort. You have to make an effort to actually do it. So there was a story which was said in the morning today that this person went to the guru, and the guru said, and he said, I want to make a lot of money. So I want to win a lottery actually. So the guru said, Tathastu, you will win the lottery. Now this guy is waiting, and he's not winning a lottery. He comes back to the guru and says that, I never won a lottery. You said I'll win a lottery. So the guru turned around and told him, but you had to do your effort, right? You had to buy the lottery ticket. If you didn't buy the lottery ticket, then how do you expect to win the lottery? So the same thing over here, right? They expect that the cheese will be put back for them, which generally doesn't happen. We have to make an effort, and we have to put in our resources, our mind, our intellect into what we are doing. Otherwise, we will be stuck in the rut.
Ho wanted to believe that, so each day he went home to rest and returned reluctantly with him to Cheese Station C, but Cheese never reappeared. By now, the little people were growing weak from hunger and stress. Ho was getting tired of just waiting for their situation to improve. He began to see that the longer they stayed in their cheeseless situation, the worse off they would be. Ho knew they were losing their edge.
So slowly, this guy who is aware, Ho is more aware than him, and he's willing and open to certain changes, right? So he is being able to understand that, yeah, this situation is not working for us. We need to do something differently, right? So now, if you follow the same principle, like I keep using this example, if you are following the same procedure, you cannot expect a different result. Now, these guys, they are going from their house, going to station C, and they're not getting a result, but they're constantly doing that same thing. So nothing is going to change unless they change the process or they change the way that they are doing something.
Finally, one day, Ho began laughing at himself. Ho, look at us. We keep doing the same things over and over again and wonder why things don't get better. If this wasn't so ridiculous, it would be even funnier.
So again, doing the same thing and expecting a different result is very, very funny, right? And whoever is expecting a different result by doing the same thing is a big idiot, or in my words, I used to call them a kaddu. So, you have to do things differently to get a different result.
Ho did not like the idea of having to run through the maze again because he knew he would get lost and have no idea where he would find any cheese. But he had to laugh at his folly when he saw what his fear was doing to him.
So again, two ways of operating, fear and love. Whenever we operate out of fear, we are on the left side of the grid. When we operate out of love, we are on the right side of the grid. And again, I'm repeating, manifestation only takes place from the right side. So where are these two little people operating from? They are operating from fear. They don't want to lose their comfort zone. They want to be there and expect that things will change. But they're not making any effort to make the change, right? And this is something that now Ho starts to realize that what his fear is doing to him. When we come to a realization, when we come to an aha moment, and then we act on it, that is when the change starts to take place.
But he had to laugh at his folly when he saw what his fear was doing to him. He asked him, "Where did we put on running shoes?" It took a long time to find them because they had put everything away when they found their cheese at Cheese Station C, thinking they wouldn't be needing them anymore. As Hem saw his friend getting into his running gear, he said, "You're not really going out into the maze again, are you? Why don't you just wait here with me until they put the cheese back?" "Because you just don't get it," Ho said. "I didn't want to see it either. But now I realize they're never going to put yesterday's cheese back. It's time to find new cheese. Hem argued, but what if there is no cheese out there? Or even if there is, what if you don't find it?
So now there will always be people around you who will be constantly discouraging you rather than encouraging you. We need to start becoming aware of this. Unless we try new things, unless we attempt to do new things, unless we, step out of our comfort zone, we are never going to achieve anything. So this is very important. And let me tell you, whenever you do something new, whenever you're doing something different, there'll be a lot of people who will tell you to remain in your comfort zone. But we need to start taking certain steps, right? I'm not take unnecessary risks, but certain amount of risk taking is extremely important. Otherwise, growth in life totally stops. So over here, he's saying very clearly, what if there is no cheese out there? Or even if there is, what if you don't find it? But if you do not even attempt to find it, how are you going to not how are you going to find it? So then you'll be stuck in the rut. So the idea is to take a step out of your comfort zone.
I don't know, Ho said. He had asked himself those same questions too many times and felt the fears again that kept him where he was. He asked himself, where am I more likely to find cheese? Here or in the maze? He painted a picture in his mind. He saw himself venturing out into the maze with a smile on his face. While
So,
this picture,
so now what did he say? He used his imagination. He projected with a happy mind that he was smiling and moving out. So he was definitely on the right side of the grid, moving out. And then where does manifestation take place? From the right side of the grid. So he was not stuck in the left side anymore. He shifted his state of consciousness to the right side of the grid.
while this picture surprised him, it made him feel good. He saw himself getting lost now and then in the maze, but felt confident he would eventually find new cheese out there and all the good things that came with it. He gathered his courage. Then he used his imagination to paint the most believable picture he could with the three most realistic details of him finding and enjoying the taste of new cheese.
So So what is he is creating a pattern, right? Now he's shifting his state of consciousness and creating a pattern. So whenever you notice something, where whatever is there in your imagination, that is what you attract to yourself, right? So now if you compare the two, this guy Hem is stuck over there, that this will happen here. This guy is out now to start exploring. So now the changes will start taking place for him.
He saw himself eating Swiss cheese with holes in it, bright orange cheddar and American cheeses, Italian mozzarella, and wonderfully soft French camembert cheese. And then he heard him say something and realized they were still at Cheese Station C. Or said, sometimes, him, things change and they are never the same again. This looked like life. That's life. Life moves on, and so should we. Ho looked at this emaciated companion and tried to talk sense to him, but Hem's fear and turned into anger, and he wouldn't listen.
So many times when we are operating out of fear, it will immediately turn into irritability and anger. Yeah. So we need to be aware of that. We need to actually stop it before it really starts to manifest and take us into the downward spiral.
Ho didn't mean to be rude to his friend, but he had to laugh at how silly they both looked. As Ho prepared to leave, he started to feel more alive, knowing that he was finally able to laugh at himself, let go, and move on.
So again, from the shift, right? He says from attachment to letting go. So unless we let go of what is holding us back, we let go of the old, we can never get into the new. So we must constantly learn from the old, but look forward to the new. And that can only happen when we let go. We are open to new ideas. We are open to new experiences. We are open to adjusting our belief systems, getting out of our belief systems. Otherwise, we will be stuck in the rut and never ever grow in our lives.
As Ho prepared to leave, he started to feel more alive, knowing that he was finally able to laugh at himself, let go, and move on. Ho laughed and announced, "It's May's time." Hem didn't laugh and he didn't respond. Ho picked up a small, sharp rock and wrote a serious thought on the wall for him to think about. As was his custom, Ho even drew a picture of cheese around it, hoping it would help him to smile, lighten up, and go after the new cheese. But Hem didn't want to see it. It read, "If you do not change, you can become extinct."
So basically, this is true for anything and everything. If you do not adapt, if you do not change according to the situation, then you will automatically get instinct. I think we can stop here. It's 3:15, right?